Howdy everyone. So I'm going to be talking about this hypersexualization towards men or towards boys, like millennials growing up. Not the hypersexualization of them, like what's happened with women and girls throughout millennials living in their formative years. What I'm talking about is it's towards men, as in this hypersexualization of the culture that millennials grew up in. I don't mean now, but that we grew up in throughout the late 90s, throughout the 2000s. And the effect that it's done to millennial men like myself, and just how it's made us too horny. It's overly stimulated us and our sexuality. And there's also something to be said about the culture shock now, where how we've gone from that to just, I would say all of a sudden, this sexual repressed society that we have now, at least in the West. But before I get right into it, I do want to kind of admit that I think it is sort of three parts, one thing and another. One of it is the culture and how sexualized it is. But another is, my biology, just me being a man and being a boy in his adolescence, growing up, starting to get horny. I mean, I guess it seemed that it happened early, although maybe that was kind of engendered and accelerated by this sexualized culture. I don't know. And really just me being a man or a boy, like a 12-year-old going through my teen years, I guess I'm just genetically likely to just have more horniness because I'm just a man and I got that sexual testosterone or whatever you want to call it going through me, like my libido, whatever it might be that I don't know that men have more of than women, this sexual kind of thing that makes you so damn horny and wants to fuck everything. So there's that, and there's also just my own fault looking at just the way that I gave into my pleasures, and I was hedonistic with looking at sexual images and then masturbating and all that kind of thing. But, hey, I'm a young boy, I'm a teenage boy, so what else am I really going to do? But as I say, this sexualized culture seemed to just accelerate it and aggravate it. Yeah, that's a word. Aggravate it, I would say, because, I don't know, there's an aggressive mix to it all as well. But the big problem with this hypersexualized culture is that it's ubiquitous. It's out in the open. So I'm not talking so much about, I guess, pornography. Pornography I have respect for because it's out there, it's available if you want it. And if you don't, then you don't have to look at it, and that's fine. But it was different with this sexualized content because you'd have just advertisements, commercials. It would just be like sexy lady eating a burger and she's like in a car wash or whatever, and a woman walks in a bar and a bunch of guys look at her and she's like real sexy. She's played by like a model and she's got the midriff and everything, and then she gives a sexy look to the guys, and then it just says, eat spaghetti. There was a lot of that going on, and it was rampant. It was just, you were watching daytime TV or primetime TV or the news, and yeah, those kind of ads would show up, and they're just sexual enough to kind of get in the minds of these teenage boys, or younger, and like really get the seeds growing at an early age. But they weren't like sexual enough that they would get banned or anything, So it could be a woman she's got like a bikini on, so she's covering her tits, she's covering her vagina. You can see a bit of her ass. And apart from that, she's naked. She's like naked aside from that, and that was fine. You could do that. And I think the varying degrees of how sexually charged an advertisement could be was, I guess that could depend on the time of day. But even once you get to evening time and you just want to watch The Simpsons or whatever, the new episode at 7:30, you're going to get those kinds of ads. So unless you just run away, you're going to watch them, And hey, if you're a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, 10-year-old boy, why would you want to run away from them, Even though it's getting into your mind and causing these problems for you later in your adult life, at the time, you're going to want to watch it. It's sexy. You want to see that. So that's what I did. I'm sure a lot of other millennials like myself did. It was certainly a lot on TV, with, and then sexualized music videos as well. And just, and later on at night, you get the sex phone call ads, those kinds of things. So you get a whole bunch of them as well after 10 p.m., so there was that as well, where it got more sexualized, and with music videos, and I think this was all intensified if you had cable or Foxtel, as we call it in Australia. Yeah, I'd noticed if I go over to my cousins and watch Foxtel, there was just that sort of thing was heightened to an absurd degree at that point. It was in all of these things, and a big one for me that I was looking at when I was like 10 or like 11 was video game magazines. Like as soon as I got into video games, not video games, like maybe more seriously into video games. I had Nintendos before, then I got into Xbox, and that's when I started playing them more and more. But these magazines for them, maybe not all of them, but some of them would have like very sexualized content in it. You know, like the cover would just be like a hot chick playing the Xbox. You know, she's got no top on. You can like nearly see her tits and everything. And there was like a bunch of like images like that throughout the magazine. I mean, what does that got to do with fucking anything? So yeah, but that was something that I was looking at like 10 or 11 years old and just going, like, you know, and really that's how, with those images, that was my first FAP material. And that's when I like FAP'd without even knowing what it was at all. It's just, that was like at least, you know, a completely natural thing that I started to do. But I mean, yeah, that was at like 10, 11 years old. I mean, that seems a touch early, you know, at a point where nothing even comes out, it's just air coming out. But it really got a start in this whole thing where, like, as it accelerated my libido throughout my teen years. And just a quick story about like a fucked up thing with a video game magazine. It wasn't in other magazines like computer magazines, nerdy magazines at all. And I went to a friend's house and he had, I think it was a D&D magazine. And he was like, look, there's hot chicks in this. And there was this one chick, she had like chainmail on. And like that sort of, it confused me at the time. Again, I'm like 12 years old. Like it confused me because I could see she had no nipples and she had no like vagina crack. And I'm confused, but like I don't care at the same time because I'm like, oh, hot woman, she's naked, you know. But obviously, like they had photoshopped that out, so that like really adds up to how fucked up, like how confused I can get when you're just actually altering the images. There's an obvious reason why they have to do it, otherwise they can't sell it as a magazine. But that kind of thing is actually making it worse for my fucking adolescent brain. Now am I getting like now confused about how a woman's fucking body even looks like? And it was even at the point where like, maybe this is on a slightly different tangent, I guess, but it's just showing how like sexuality in general, just sexiness is just so fucking everywhere. Where I remember being a teenager, I was a bit older now, but like 15 at this point, and like just in the car with one of my parents listening to like mainstream radio, and there's an ad break. Some of the ads could be pretty sexual, I guess, as well, but some of them were like about erectile dysfunction or performing not as good in the bed and everything, and they were just so fucking like, there'd be like no music, there'd be no like narrative in the thing. They would just straight up be like, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction? Are you not satisfying your woman in the bedroom? I'm like, oh god, this is really awkward. This is really cringy. Oh, if I'm on my own, it's not as bad, obviously, but man, that shit is a big memory of the formative years of my life. By the way, let's talk about ED in a different video. So anyway, I grew up and I get into my adult years. I'm 20 years, I'm 20, not now, I'm 20 years old, and I'm getting throughout my 20s, and it seems like there is a change in the culture. It seems like, I guess I'm not watching as many advertisements because I'm just not watching TV and I have ad block on my computer, but I'm seeing less ads in general. But even when I do see them, if I'm at my parents' house or wherever, I happen to see them, even on billboards, they're less sexual. There's less of this like hot woman, eat a burger, you know, this kind of thing. It's just more, I don't know, straight up, you know. I think that, you know, it is the way the things have changed in the culture and everything, and like the rise of feminism and all this. And okay, it's actually working out for me as I realize now, but advertisements seem a little more direct, and if they're not, then they're trying to be funny, they're trying to be memey, they're trying to have like a cartoonish, like Pixar quality to them. They're just filled with effects. They're still less aggressive than they were throughout like the late 90s into the 2000s, where they were like extreme, like that kind of thing. Even if they weren't sexy, they were just about, you know, a totally hedonistic lifestyle, you know, even if it was advertising spaghetti or whatever. So yeah, that's all really cool and everything. The problem is that I'm still horny. Like, you still put it in me. You still put that effect in me. And I don't know if there's really much I can do other than just, you know, generally watch less porn and everything. But I mean, the reason like I'm watching as much porn as what I did throughout my 20s is because of this whole sexualization that was thrown in all of our faces, you know. And what's very problematic now is that It actually seems like there's a real inverse in it all. I mean, well, just in the way that, you're having these millennial boys grow up with sexuality, full-on sexuality thrown in their face. I mean, it's not pornographic because there's no actual vagina and bush and actual nipples and everything. But you know what, as I say, like, it's worse than pornographic because pornography is over here and you can watch it if you want. But these sorts of things are out in the open, they're ubiquitous, they're on billboards, and it's showing like a woman's ass. And it's just so cynical, especially because it's not coming from a place of pure, like, pornography, like, hey, it's pure sexuality at least. It's still trying to sell you something, but was selling you sexuality. These are cynical because they're using sexuality to sell you something else, just like spaghetti or whatever. And having gone through all that now, and now we're at a point of total sexual repression. Like, you can't, especially towards men, oh, you bad men, the whole Me Too movement, we all have to pay for the sins of all the actual rapists and everything. You've, like, put this sexuality in me so fucking bad and made me so horny throughout, like, my life now. I'm trying to get away from it. But then also now society is saying, like, well, hey, don't ever fucking approach women. You can't have workplace relationships. You can't have sex with them, especially not at work. Oh, God forbid. You don't approach women at the gym. Don't, like, and everything to do with online dating and offline dating, speed dating and single mingles and all that. They don't fucking work either. Like, online dating for sure doesn't work. It doesn't get you laid unless you're attractive. But if you're speed dating as well, that's really a place for, like, women to meet other women. That's for them to meet friends. Like, it's not a fucking friend dating, speed friending, whatever event, but whatever. So really, I think I'm just really bitching and moaning about the culture shock that this has all gone through, I mean, if we were, like, a little less sexually repressed, it wouldn't seem so bad, but for it to be just such a reversal on the attitudes that we had about it all, to grow up in this, like, sexually retarded way of just showing, like, sex, look at all the hot woman, and just the way, like, just how pornographic it was. I mean, I hesitate to use that word because, as I say, like, it's worse than pornography, it's rapey. I'll say this, I'm not going to get views on this anyway, from the demonetization and all that kind of shit that YouTube does, but it is rapey. I'm exaggerating here, but I'm trying to get between pornographic and rapey with the way that it just throws these fucking images at your face. And to compare it to now, to compare it to adolescents now, okay, they have their issue with pornography, like, it's more easily accessible and it's more open to fetishes and that sort of thing. Yes, there's all that, but hey, at least when you go outside, you walk around, it's not as sexual, you're not seeing advertisements that are like this anymore. If you happen to turn on the TV, if you still watch TV or whatever, the ads are just more direct, and the women, have, I don't want to sound all like Sharia law on you or whatever, but they got more clothes on, alright? It's okay, they might still have, like, a grandma that's wearing these, like, tight leggings that, like, make her ass look, like, nice and supple, which is not the fucking case. When she gets those gym pants off, her ass sags again, so you shouldn't be getting horny about that kind of thing. But even still, that's better than a granny in a bikini. I mean, a hot woman in a bikini, a gilf in a bikini, in an advertisement that you can't help but watch. As soon as it comes up, it just gets into your fucking, into your neurons. I think that's what it is, the whole sexual thing that gets you horny in here. Yeah, I'm not an adolescent now. I try to compare it to how it would be for them now. Even 10 years ago, how it was for people growing up in the adolescence 10 years ago. I also think about how it was for, like, people growing up in other cultures in the world, certain cultures, like speaking of Sharia law, like a Middle Eastern country, but like, let's say one around the time of, like, a revolution, when they started to look more American. So this might be out of time with, like, growing up in the 90s, I guess, I don't know. But was it like, when they started having billboards, did it look like that? Was it like a sexy woman? Was there like advertisements on TV that were just so cynically getting into your neurons to just advertise you something and to fuck up your sexuality as you grew up? I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Or to all the Muhammads out there who may be watching. But ultimately, I guess this all wouldn't have been as bad. I wouldn't be bitching and moaning about all this as much if I just got laid a little bit more, if I got laid, like, at all, I mean, look, I have been laid, but it took some time, and if I hadn't have grown up with just this completely fucked up attitude about sexuality. I have other issues as well, we can get into them later, but the way that it all started with like not just having a natural kind of discovery of adolescent sexuality. And I don't mean like, start fucking chicks when I'm 13 and 14. Even if I still have to wait, at least I could just grow up a little more fucking sexually innocently. Just not have it be bombarded into my brain as much. And it seemed nice at the time, but it's like, drinking alcohol. It's nice at the time, but there's a fucking hangover coming. I mean, I do believe that, like, yeah, other people, other millennials, like myself, they grew up and they were able to have a whole bunch of sex. And I bet even still, it's just not preferable. It's still not preferable to just have it that way. And I guess I keep talking about, like, this happening with men. There's like a whole, I don't know how it really is with women. I do think that with women, millennial girls and women growing up, like, they had their all, it was different for them because it wasn't like it was targeted towards them as in you get horny. It was like, you need to look like this. So that was a whole other thing, and that's kind of, well, let's just say there's been a pendulum swing with what's going on there, but it's been different for them. But hey, there's been so much discussed about them, and I feel like millennial men don't talk about how much it's affected them, and maybe they just don't even know why. Hopefully this video can kind of make you discover your past trauma to do with being raped by all these advertisements. And I keep talking about it with millennials, but I guess it could have happened with earlier generations. I mean, I've watched old ads from the 50s, they don't look too sexy to me, but yeah, maybe around the 70s it started to happen. I'm not sure, but how I want to end this video is with some commentary by my favorite philosopher, Bill Hicks, who, and he's not a millennial, I guess he'd grown up throughout the 60s and into the 70s with his adolescence, but his whole joke about what he has to say about the perfect commercial that could be made, the perfect commercial that could really capture the sexual zeitgeist of the times. And he made this joke in the early 90s, I guess, so maybe it has gone further back than I can even imagine. Well, you know what, Bill Hicks, after you fucking died in 94, shit just got so much worse. And then it got better, but as I said with the sexual repression, it got all fucked up. Anyway, this was a fucked up time to grow up. But anyway, that's it for me. Now take it away, Bill.
Doesn't every commercial blatantly use sex to sell the product? I believe most of them do. Here is the commercial they'd like to do, I guarantee you. We may see this one day yet, but this is the ultimate television commercial they want to do. Here's the woman's face, beautiful. Camera pulls back, naked breast. Camera pulls back, she's totally naked, legs apart, 2 fingers right here. And it just says, drink Coke.